content style guide. So I will just quickly run through all three. But I really want to focus on how would you please tell me. So I'm not in the best frame right now. I'm sick, but I want to. Should I run through all three, or do I just concentrate on one? Then we carry over the next two and discuss it at length some other time. What do you guys suggest?
I think both ways work. Running through all three is like you said, you're not really in the right frame. So if you want to concentrate on one, you might not go as much depth as you would prefer. So just running through all three, kind of like an introduction. We do some research, and the next class, we're sure that you'll be all right, and then you'll be able to go even more depths.
Yeah, but I'm also trying to also, yeah, I get you. I'm also looking at efficiency also. So I feel like it's more efficient if I concentrate on one and know that one is done and out of the way than just beating beating through all three and not being so in depth. So I think what I should do in depth is so let's look at content style guide in depth, like content style guide, deep in it. Let's look at it and come let me pull up my screen. But first, I would want to know what do you guys have you heard of content style guides before?
I will speak for myself. I don't know about the rest of the group, but I know about content style guide, and with our project, we're trying to work on one with my team using kind of MailChimp's format. So yeah, I think that's the most popular one, really.
Okay. Anybody else?
I have.
Awesome, awesome, awesome. Mm, perfect. So content style guide, think of it as a manual for content on any product. That is the manual. And what it does really, to cut the long story short, what it does really is the same way a manual tells Mr. A that turn on the TV, pressing the red button on the remote. It's still the same way it tells Mr. B up to Mr. Z. They still communicate. It has the same information for everybody. And the goal is to help anybody navigate through that particular product, that navigate through that particular machine or use it properly. That's the same way content style guides help anybody on the writing team, even those not on the writing team. Sometimes you need to like do copy audits and tests and see if it's actually in line. It's just there. It's just there as standing rules and regulation, rules of engagement for writing on that particular product. It's important that products have or brands have content style guide for several reasons. One reason is one reason is let's pull up my screen. Can you get to my screen?
Yes,
Hello?
sir. Yes,
Yeah.
sir.
Can you see my screen?
Yes,
Yeah.
sir.
Okay. So note this. There are two reasons why we need content style guides. Reason number one, because content style guide improves consistency. Consistency in the sense that today I'm writing for the web and I sound sweet and everything. When I move from the web to the app, I'm not supposed to sound different. I'm supposed to sound the same thing. Now, I could have just gotten a huge paycheck when I was writing for the web and I'm just naturally happy. Or when I was writing for the web, I was still with my babe, so we're still good and everything. And when they still come to write on the app, I'm broke or they don't give me breakfast already. You know? So in both situations, my mood has changed. And if I should allow my mood to affect how I write, it will be obvious in the copy itself that something went wrong here. There's no consistency. If I'm guided by the content style guide, I would maintain that consistency. That is one. That is one reason why it's important to maintain consistency. We are humans, it's not AI, it's humans that write. Yeah. And we are subject to mood blocks, and we are susceptible to it. A lot of things can happen. Two, I might be the one writing for web today. So, so I might be the one writing for web today, and tomorrow someone else is writing for the app. Now we have two distinct individuals. How do we put our differences aside and still make the product sound the same? Because we're not the ones that the applications you use, you don't care who wrote it. You don't, nobody knows the UX writer you get, but you know the voice. So how do we put our individual difference aside and make the product sound the same? That's where content style guide comes in. Two, if you are a content lead or your copy needs to be edited or audited, we need a basis to audit that copy. Gone are the days when someone just reads up your content and be like, nah, I don't like it. But they can't point out why they can like. If you're actually working with a team, a wide team, and you need to audit your copy, you need people to come up and say, okay, this copy does not work. But according to the style guide, this should actually have sounded this way than sounding this way. So reward this copy, sound this way based on the brand tone. That's stellar because they are giving you corrections or room for improvement based on the content style guide. But imagine if there was no style guide. How are they going to tell you that you should improve your copy? How? There's no basis for it. You're only telling me you don't like it, but you just don't like it. You know, that's why content style guide. So what really is it? Think of it as a pyramid. Um, pyramids, the top block, most important, then all other things fall under it. So the most important thing is the brand character. When you're developing a brand character, when you develop a brand character, think of this as a brand person. Think of it as a person. Try to put a face to the brand or a name to the brand. What is this brand supposed to feel like? Is this brand supposed to feel like? Is this brand supposed to feel like a big brother? Is it a go-to brand that we want, in the house? the person you'd always run to, like, please give me, probably your mom or dad, is that what this brand is supposed to feel like? Is the brand supposed to feel like someone holding your hand, someone guiding you, a co-pilot, or someone who does not really care about the things you are doing? They're just there. There are some brands that want to feel that way. They don't want you to rely heavily on them. And some other brands also require you to like lean on them 24/7. So what is the brand character like? What is the brand persona like? That is the main thing in the content style guide, because whatever content you are putting out will be based on how the brand, on how people feel the brand, or what people think of the brand as. So that is always there for the brand character. The next is the content principle. Content principle. Are you guys with me? Hello?
Yes, we are.
All right, question. The next is content principle. The content principle or content objective is what we want the content to do. There can be several objectives. There can be several principles. A good example is you're working for you're writing for e-commerce, an e-commerce platform. The only reason why that idea or that startup or that company was made was for money. That's the only reason. So whatever content you are creating, it should not just leave user. It must be a redirecting content. I'll give you a good example of redirecting content. Now, if you ask me that, what is my favorite shoe? I could just tell you my favorite shoe is Nike, or my favorite shoe is Adidas, or Balenciaga. That's my favorite shoe. I'm not supposed to sell you anything with that content. Just be straightforward and end there. But if it's a redirecting content, I will tell you my favorite shoe is Nike. When you wear Nike, you feel less pain. When you wear Nike, it gives you access to places you normally would not go. And that is why if you have $50 you want to spend buying an Adidas, just add an extra 20 and come buy a Nike. Click this link to buy a Nike. Do you understand? Hello? Are you guys with me? Hello?
Yes, yes, we are.
Yes,
Good.
yes.
So the difference between just answering that simple question and making it a redirecting content is because our brand in content principle is to always sell. That is the content principle. We always want to sell. We're always achieving, we always want to, the main goal we want to achieve, the main objective is for people to keep buying or click out, click to the checkout. So that's the principle of it. Some other brand might just require you to just inform users, and that's all. So content principle can be always persuasive or always leading up to sales. Another principle might be informative. Another principle might be being clear. Those are content principles. So think about it. What's that thing you want your website, your landing page, your emails, your notification, your mobile app microcopy? What's that thing you want all of them collectively or individually? Say, what's that thing you want all of them to do? When you identify that, that is your content principle. Then next is voice and tone. Voice and tone. Voice and tone, it is dicey, but it is not impossible to create and maintain. And I'm going to give you life example. So I need answers. Please tell me what type of tone you think. Let's talk about famous brands that we know. For example, um, Piggy Vest. What do you think about Piggy Vests? I want to see your comments in the chat. What do you think about Piggy Vest's voice? And if you were called to come create a content style guide for Piggy Vest, on that voice and tone, what would you put there? I want to see. So Victoria said friendly and relaxed, friendly and supportive. Victoria said friendly and supportive. I'm still looking for more comments. Mm. Evalua, what do you mean by quirky? Evalua. Yeah, I see that a lot, and I kind of like that. Sorry, I kind of like that micro copy. Be asleep or watch your hand. It's fun too. Okay, so yeah. These are all things they all sound like. Do you notice that there was this one time Piggyvest was trending because they kind of like sent out one particular message, and people kind of found it the meaning. So the problem was they were not being consistent. They were not being consistent at that time. They were sounding a particular way, and all of a sudden there was a switch, and people noticed that switch. So you might think users will not notice your switch or a change in your tone and voice, but they do. It is like Stanbic IBTC, the bank I use. She wrote up one morning and I should just see one message like, um, how far now? We miss you. And I'll be like, yo, from where to where? But imagine if it's an application that from the very start, from the onboarding, they've been giving me that vibes. Do you understand me? You guys should feel free to talk. I need to be sure that my network is not bad. Okay. So if an application I've been using from the very start, they've been giving me that vibes, like you know. So when I wake up one morning and I see a I miss you message from them, notification, just reminding me to come back to the application. I don't feel like what's going on here because that's the vibe you've been giving me from day one. Makes sense. But if you've been formal, not so friendly, and I just see it, I'm like, and I notice the switch. So you need to be consistent with um tone and voice. There are a list of there are a list of voice patterns that we can emulate. There are a list of voice patterns that we can emulate. For example, because this voice, that is how people perceive. I can come to you now and I'll be like, what are you doing now? Do you get? I can be like, what are you doing now? I'm still saying the same thing as, oh, what are you doing now? The difference is you perceive one as being aggressive and forceful, you perceive the other as being helpful. So in your content style guide, based on what your content is, oh, please don't just have there is no, it should not be stereotypical, it should not be stereotypical. It should always be based on what your content and your brand is. Well, good examples are approachable, kind, empathetic, brainy, charismatic, sincere, spiritual, rebellious, creative, ambitious. There are a lot of brands, just looking at this list alone, there are a lot of brands carry that have each and every one of these. A lot of brands that from day one they give you the we don't give a fuck attitude. Like that's how they're coming across to you, and that is how they want you to perceive them. That is based on their voice. Now, when we talk about tone is flexible. So because tone is flexible, you want to put guardrails on it. And you need to put guardrails on it because you don't want to go from having a positive tone to a totally negative tone. A good example is wanting to sound smart, like want to sound like the brightest person in the room. That's how that product wants to sound. But it is very easy for you to move. There's a thin line between sounding smart and sounding arrogant. Yes, you are the best in the room, but you can now go a little bit past that and sound like you are rubbishing every other person. We don't want to do that. You also want to sound persuasive, but not patronizing. You don't want to sound like you're saying, please now, please use us now. Please use us. So when you're writing your content style guide, make sure you have this clear indication that sound smart, but don't sound arrogant. So whoever is writing or using that piece of information to guide the content they're creating knows where the line is and they know when to stop. Do you understand? Do you guys get me? Do you guys get me? Awesome, awesome. So another note, because I remember when I started, I said content style guide can be very dicey. Your voice and tone, your content style guide can be very dicey because you need to set limit. You need to set limit. Please and please, if you do not know how to use it, never use sarcasm. Never use it if you don't know how to. Some people can be sarcastic, and as soon as I tell you something, you know I'm being sarcastic, you know. But some others use it in a way that they are trying to be, but it's not clearing. So you just see it as a straight out insult. Or it even goes beyond being insultive to becoming misleading. And you know that is one thing you never ever want to your copy. You never want to mislead people. Something like you trying to say you are the best and you're like, you know what? If you want to have a good day, or if you're not ready to take these steps, use the next application on your Play Store. It's sarcasm, yeah. But rather than you communicating that you're actually the best and there's no one that can do it like you're doing it, you're just making someone exit your product totally. And that's because you use sarcasm. If you can't use it, Ejo, I beg, please don't use it. The next on our list is grammar, punctuation, and formatting. Your grammar should be consistent. Your use of punctuation should be consistent, and your formatting should be consistent. So clearly state what kind of writing style you are using. Are you using the AP style? Are you using the Oxford comma? Would you use exclamation point? I know some products that they don't use exclamation point at all. And the reason is because when I went through their content style guide, the exclamation point to them are forceful or is forceful. They don't want to use it because they don't want to sound that way. So no matter how many writers they have, everyone not to use my earbud died. Can you guys still hear me? Hello? Awesome. So they know not to use exclamation points simply because their content style guide says don't use it. So if you are joining a team, the goal is that everyone in this class, after this, you have enough knowledge to get a job. A little, let me veer a little bit. So when you apply for jobs, people just want to know your process. People they need your portfolio. They need your portfolio to probably see things you have done, but they want to hear you. They want to hear you talk about how you work as a UX writer. They want to hear how you work. So these are information. What I'm telling you are information that will be very helpful during job interviews. When people ask you how you work, clearly state that you are a huge fan of content style guides. When they ask you why, clearly say that it helps with brand consistency. And no product would want anything. What they want the most is for a writer that can help them communicate and keep it that way. So state clearly that you value the content style guide and that you just a minute, please. Yeah. Clearly say that you understand how to work with the content style guide. And if they don't have, you don't mind creating for them. What it does is, if you are the only writer, fine. It helps you within yourself be consistent. And if there are others, it helps all of you be better coordinated. Would you believe that Flutterwave, it was until they had, I think, two UX writers that Flutterwave had to create a content style guide. So it's important, and I have seen that that's one way to get the attention of recruiters. So whatever you're trying to tell them, always find a way to smuggle how much admiration and respect and understanding of content style guide that you have. All right. So back to our grammar and formatting. You want to be consistent, but please note, it is fine to break the rules for the sake of clarity. If you are looking at this particular grammar and there is no way to put it correctly and still communicate the right point, always pick clarity over correctness. Once you explain that your goal was to be clear, you are justified. Always pick clarity or over correctness. Things you should note in this category when creating your content style guide is acronyms and abbreviations. Do you use acronyms on this particular brand? Brand A might say, yes, fine, we can use acronyms and we can use abbreviations. And for some other brands, it's a no-no. It's a no-no. There are no such things as abbreviations on their products. That's probably what the product owner will tell you, and you have to stick to that. Capitalization. What type of capitalizations do we use? Do we use title case? Do we use lowercase? Do we use uppercase? If for your H1 is your heading or your headline. If for your H1 you are using title case, don't use uppercase for your next copy. You are not using uppercase or you're using all lowercase. No. Whatever you start with is what you have to finish with. And that is because it is in your content style guide. Use of commas, use of exclamation points, use of hyphens, italics. Do you create lists? Do you use semicolons? What is your verbosity? How many words do you use ideally? How many words would you ideally use? What's your word range for a headline? All of these are the things you find in your content style guide under grammar, punctuation, and formatting. You'd also have to think about how your grammar, punctuation, and formatting also affects your accessibility. What you decide to use, would it be detected by a screen reader? For example, if you use ID, if you write ID, we all know ID means identification, yes? But your screen reader would read, I've realized that your screen reader, that's for those who are visually impaired and who need alt text to understand things like that. Your screen reader would read ID as ID. So if you want clarity, the best thing is when you write ID and you want your screen reader to read it, state there clearly that ID for screen readers should be written as identification. So when the screen reader is scrolling, it does not see ID, it sees identification, which helps the user, which the user will understand. So that's for grammar and formatting. Next is UI text guideline. How do we want the text to be displayed? How do we want the text to be displayed? Product designers might have choice, might have a preference, but you as the UX writer or the content designer, you make the final call. Please note that you make the final call. You will decide whether it should be long-form content or short-form content. And this is where your content style guide will come in defense. For this particular situation, what type of content works? So if it is content are following a hero header right there, following the headline, your content style guide might state that the content following H1 on the hero header should be a short form content, maximum of 20 to 30 words, or even less. 20 to 30 words much, but you should just state it there. So your designer would not go and give you space for 150 to 200 words, because your content style guide there has come to defend it that this is what should always be here and it should best be left that way. So these are things that your content style guide. It's more like, just look at a content style guide as the 12 commandments of UX writing, except that they are not permanent rules. They are based on the brand. So content style guide for Facebook will not be content style guide for Google or content style guide for WebX or whatever. It depends on the brand. It depends on what works best for the brand. Usability also is important. For if when you write for blind, when you're writing for the blind people, for those who are visually impaired, these are steps that must be taken. These are points that we should note. State all of those points in usability, under usability for your content style guide. I gave an example of writing ID, which will not identification. If you can read with your eyes normally, you would see that ID. But if you are using a screen reader and you are getting audio feedback, how would this come? If this comes as ID, if this comes to you as ID, would you understand it? And that is why your screen reader would probably say identification card. So those are things that we need to put. Readability also. How do you write and what clusters do you write? What should be your sentence length and all of that? Do you want a paragraph? Should your paragraph just be made up of at least 3 to 5 sentences? Or do you want paragraphs of 20 sentences? Yeah, people can write that long. But does it improve readability? Those are things that should be stated in your content style guide. Localization also, but that depends. That depends on your audience. Localization it carries a huge point though. So I would want, if individually you guys can go read about localization and how you can localize content. I recently got asked, and I think I was able to impress the person asking the question, because for brands or products to grow and become international, they want to be sure that their message is clear to everybody. You understand? That everybody, irrespective of where they are, can read and understand their message. So localization is super, super important. So for example, readability tells you how short or how appealing to the eyes your content should be. If it's easy to read, if you're able to skim through or scan through those words and do a sentence and get the point, that shows readability is good. Yes. So ideally, it could contain sentences of like 15 to 25 words. However, countries like Russia, for example, they prefer longer sentences. So your content style guide will tell you that, because since content style guide is not a general law or a one size fits all law, it's based on your brand. If your brand is moving to the Russian market, for example, it should clearly state there that for localization purpose, sentences should be longer. And that is because when it's localized into that particular language, it becomes more appealing. If tomorrow you also move from Russia now to Spain, check out what works best in Spain and include it in your content style guide. The next is diversity and inclusion. If you have, I want you guys have been quiet. So I want you guys, let's do another exercise again on the chat. If you're writing for a brand that has men and women, how do you address them? And you need to address them generally. How do you address them? I want options and I want to see you guys comment. Can you people hear me? Hello? Okay, so now you're writing for a brand that addresses men and women, but you want to use a general term for both gender. What do you do? How would you address them? Okay. Saying they both. For example, would you say something like, are you supposed to say words like guys, hello guys? Are you supposed to say hello guys? Okay, everyone. Okay, okay. Yeah, you should not say hello guys because as much as some users, some people might feel like, yeah, guys can be both. It can be it can be used for both gender. Some might also pick offense. So you'd have to think of more general words to use. So your content style guide under inclusion. Yeah. So use include princess, you're right. So use general words that nobody will pick offense. And I have my own ideas, my own belief, my own way of looking at things. But the truth is, the world will not see things the way I see it. So I can wake up tomorrow now and tell you that I identify as a woman. So forget that I have beards and I have big man body. If you come and meet me and tell me, hey bro, I'll be angry at you. Why are you calling me bro? you know? So your inclusion, your diversity, under diversity, make sure that nobody picks offense. And you have to understand your users so you know what words work best for them. If you are creating a woke product, a product that is going to be used by millennials and Gen Z people, you need to take notice of this. It's very important that you're inclusive. And this also means including gender, sexual orientation, religion, age. Make everyone feel like I am welcome here. And what offers that welcoming feeling is your content. Your content is what offers that welcoming feeling. So yeah, that's pretty much it for the content style guide. It's important that this is constantly being this is constantly being reviewed. We have to constantly review it to ensure that it's in line with the brand's objective. That's why brand character is there, right? Number one. Brand character dictates how the rest of that pyramid will go. If you want, I could. I think I did before. Your brand character dictates how it should go. Because you want people to understand what they are in for. What type of business are they dealing with? That's very important. So clearly state your message by observing and creating the brand character. A good way, as I've said earlier, to get the attention of recruiters is tell them you are going to create a content style guide for them. That works every single time because it's more value that will help your own work, but then also shows them they have something to offer them because it's something they will still have and use even when you've left. So, yes. Any question? Please feel free to ask if you have questions. Sorry, I know I sound off today. I'm not just in the best health right now. Any question, please ask. Any question from somebody? Anybody?
I don't have any questions. I don't know if anyone else has any questions.
You don't have any question?
But
Anyone else? If you have a question, please ask me.
good afternoon. Sorry, please, can you hear me?
So I was saying that you guys have been working on a number of things. How far? Is there any report on how you guys done? Have gone? Yes. Okay. Okay, I see two questions. Victoria, can there be a middle ground? No, like not wanting to sound too formal or overly formal. How would that work? Yes, there is. There is a middle ground. And it's important that that is why for tone, I said it there for tone that you need to create guardrails. So you are saying we don't want to sound so informal that you come and climb on our head, or is that sending us crazy messages? We don't want that. That is too informal. But at the same time, we don't want to sound very serious. So you could write it there in your tone that you sound free, but not overly playful. So, Victoria, do you get me now? Hello? Hello? Can you guys talk? I want to hear voices. You're making it seem like my network is bad. Oh, you can't unmute. Okay. Okay, that's fine. That's fine. So, yeah, create guardrails. Guardrails is given the conditions. We want to sound free, but not overly playful. So whoever is reading that knows how to create the content. Okay, let's be free, but want to be careful not to go overboard. Fibian says, when making the style guide, do you include examples on that certain part, like a sentence? Yes, please. Be as direct as you can. Make sure you are communicating well, even in your style guide. So don't just pull up one words. Include example. When I say, what am I supposed to say? When I say for capitalization, if I say use title case, I cannot put a bracket there and say use title case for your H1 and stick to title case for all H1. So whoever is reading it knows use H1 and they know in what situation and what event. So yeah, that makes sense. You can do that. You can create an example like a sentence. Okay. So is that all? Is that all? Is that all the questions we have?
The actual topic is to hold by the truth and just like fix it as something by the word.
I saw a question. Is there best ratio of text for schemability? So ideally it should be per sentence. It should be 15. Can you hear me, Princess? It should be 15 to 25 words. That's like normal ratio. 15 to 25 words per sentence. Then an average paragraph should include about, I don't know, 3-4 of such sentences. 3-4 of such sentences. Sentence of 15 to 25 words times 3 or 4. That should be enough words in a paragraph. But then it also depends, it highly depends on your user. If you're having busy people, make a paragraph as short as possible. So they are getting your point without having to like sit down and read line by line. So I think it depends on your users, really. That's like the bulk of the work depends on your users. All right, so in that case, I think we are good. I dropped the link to this particular article I saw on Content Style Guide for you. I think it would be good if you guys can read. You would get a sense of what I have been trying and fighting to say all day. Thank you very much for coming. Hopefully next week will be more fun than this. You